Raikan Topaini is for Thai drama lovers only. Hi, hello, sawadee-ha, and welcome to Axelle's Guide to Thai Dramas. I'm Axelle, and the Thai drama we're talking about today is Mystique in the Mirror. Full transparency, I hadn't planned on reviewing this show at all, but this show took me by surprise. Let's get into the first impression. So I had no real first impression of the show. I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't see the trailer. I didn't really hear about this show until it aired. And I just saw it on one of the websites that I used to watch shows. I hope you get what I'm talking about. And, I just thought the title was fun. I mean, Mystique, I guess written like this is also in English, where it comes from French. So anytime I see some like French word, I'm like, Then I think I went on my drama list, and then I saw that the main character was played by the actor that was in the first BL pairing ever in Thailand, which was in Hormones 2013, who is Tu Setaut. And I hadn't seen him in like so freaking long. And I thought that it was really funny because his pairing in Hormones was with Marshu Tavut, and in 2025 both of them decided to do BL but not together, and I was like, oh my god, I want them to come back and give us like a sequel of their characters in Hormones, because that would be so iconic. Apart from that, my first impression was someone saying that the first episode was very, very strong and very enticing, and obviously I read the summary, and the summary seemed very, very interesting. So that was kind of it for my first impression. Now on to the synopsis. So I will try to make it the simplest thing possible, and then we will discuss a little bit more of the synopsis with the characters. For the synopsis, we have Alan, who wakes up, and is very confused. He wakes up in his house with his dad, and realizes that, and he's told that he has memory problems. So that's why he has a notebook with him at all time that he needs to write like everything that happened so he can remember it. And very quickly transitions from his home with his dad to a mental hospital because Alan sees an old man in the mirror. It is very creepy. The old man tells him, remember, remember, remember. So it's definitely giving horror, psychological horror vibes. And in that mental hospital, Alan will be confronted to many people, including, Win, who is a guy who climbs through his window to join him. And, they fall in love. Spoiler alert, they fall in love. This is the best synopsis that I can give. It's a very confusing show. It's a very stressful show at times. It's a show that, especially like the first 2-3 episodes, you're just confused the whole time. But it entices you enough to keep watching. And I'm very glad that I kept watching. So now onto the characters, and that will allow me to explain a little bit more about the plot. I'm sure I did a terrible job. So for the main character, we have Alan, played by Tu Setaut. He's a very interesting character, especially since he's the main character. So we, as the audience, also relate to him and see kind of the story unfurl from his perspective, which I find very interesting. So Alan is very much like, we don't know if he's an unreliable narrator or if he's just has mental health issues that cause him to omit certain things, because Alan is very confused and kind of searching for answers throughout the show at the same time as we, the viewers, are. And it was an interesting position to be in as a viewer. I think as a main character, he was very, sometimes you think, ooh, maybe he's little, ooh, cuckoo, you know, he's little crazy. And other times you're like, oh my god, no, everyone's lying to him. You feel a lot about these characters because this character in general, like feels a lot. And I thought that Alan was a very interesting main character that I've never really seen before, at least in a Thai drama. So I really really liked Alan. Then we have Win, or Darwin, bit less developed, very mysterious. Win only appears with Alan, so that might give you a clue. I kind of knew the truth about Win's character by episode, I think 2 or 3, because something shady here. And he's a very cheerful guy, but also very mysterious. We don't really know much about him. We don't really learn much about him even at the end of the show. He's very much a character that we understand why he's here only at the end. So I will finish the characters. No, I think I'm gonna spoil it now. So spoilers for the show. If you haven't watched Mystique in the Mirror and are interested in watching it, I spoil all of my shows, but here, this is a show that, like, once it's spoiled, I don't think there is much meaning in watching it again, because this is a show that kind of is anchored around the plot twist and the truth that Alan is seeking. So if you haven't watched Mystique in the Mirror and are interested in watching it, I really recommend this show, especially if you like psychological horror. It's not even a genre that I particularly love, and I still very much enjoy this show, so I recommend you watch it. But if you want to watch it, exit this video, come back another day, because I'm gonna spoil it. So in the end, the very big reveal about Alan is that he is actually the actor we see, so to the young body we see him in, played by Taout, is not him. He is the old man that he's been seeing in the mirror. That's him. And he has Alzheimer. And I thought that was a very good plot twist, but we'll talk about it in later sections. But that's the big plot twist. And the big plot twist is that Win is his old lover that already passed away. So the old man is the founder of the mental hospital that Alan ends up at, and Win already passed away, so it's his ghost. It's the ghost of his ex-lover that he sees. And that's why Win, we don't see him interact with anyone. Literally anyone else. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So now let's go on to the supporting roles. So we have Dr. Nin, played by Nat Sakdatorn. Oh my god, I love Nat. Like, if you don't know him, he's iconic as fuck. I love him very much. He's an actor that's been in and out of GMMTV, but also did one of my favorite queer Thai movies called Fathers. I really love him. And also he was in Friendzone. Like, anyways, I really love this actor. He was very shady. Dr. Nin, we don't really... Honestly, I thought he was gonna be a villain, and it was interesting that he wasn't. And there's no real villain in this show at all, which is even more interesting. So Dr. Nin is like the head doctor at the mental hospital, which is called Family House. He is very shady, very mysterious. And yeah, I think we don't know much about him. I think this whole show kind of hinges on us not knowing much about the characters. So usually you will tell me, Axelle, you always say like you want characters to be super developed and blah blah blah, but here I think it worked for me because he was developed still enough to make it interesting in the course of like an 8 episodes mini series, with a lot of things going on at the same time. And so Nin, spoiler alert, we learned that he's the lover of Alex Banalai, who we will talk about in a second, but they are not like really together. They're kind of like a forbidden love story. We'll talk about that. I don't really get why they don't end up together. Maybe they do after the camera stopped rolling, but we'll see. And in any case, I think, the acting was really good. There's scenes where Natsa Datorn is, we're not talking about the acting. I'm trying to like keep in the sections because I tend to like go over and melt them all together. So this is for the character of Nin. Very mysterious, very a little bit creepy at times. You don't really know what his goal is. Then we have Alex Banalai, who is presented at first as the dad of Alan. I'm trying to not call because Alan, a little bit confusing. But yes, he's presented as his dad. This is how we are introduced to him. But obviously, as I told you already, Alan is an old dude. And so he's actually the son of Alan and Win. So they were a gay little family. And I thought this was very interesting. So this actor, Kik Danae, I've seen him in so many roles. He's been in Lacorns, he's been in so many shows, and he has a very distinctive face, and he always plays the villain. He always plays the bad guy. And here also, I think they really played on him, especially in the first few episodes, on him, again, we are dropped into the show with Alan not remembering anything, and we have Alex telling him, "Oh, I'm your dad, you have memory problems, blah, blah, blah." And he's very good at looking a little bit creepy and being like, I think this boy is lying to us. I actually really enjoyed seeing this actor in such a different role, a queer role, obviously, love that. And Alex, so he's in love with, Dr. Nin, as I said. But Dr. Nin is the one kind of saying, no, we can be together. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Alex, I think, was very interesting character, and I like the reveal that he's actually been good all along and kind of seen his dad, like, forget about him and have to pretend to be his dad's dad. Like, that's a little crazy. But I kind of love it. Honestly, I like this character. Then we have, and that was fucking crazy. One of my biggest surprises for this show, I went into this show pretty much blind, okay? I only knew that there was the guy from Hormones. And then the side sheep appeared, played by Sugus Bontawit and Tenon Teshapat. And I was like, these two look so familiar to me. They look so familiar. So what did I go do? I clicked on their profile. They were in fucking Golden Blood. Not My Golden Blood. I told you guys in the My Golden Blood episode that My Golden Blood basically stole the title of another Thai BL that had been released like 2-3 years before. And that was it. Golden Blood. And they were the side ship in Golden Blood, and I can remember them so much because at that time my brain hadn't been fried yet by like 1,000 BLs being released every year. And literally, I was like, this is fucking crazy. They had these two actors, okay? They had the side ship in 2021. They never acted together again. And then they reunited for this show. And I want to know, like, what happened there? Do they know someone in the crew that was like, oh, would you guys be down to be a ship again? Were they, friends all along, and then they were like, oh, let's apply to this show. Like, I don't know what's happening, and also what's behind me. Oh, what's happening? Okay, don't mind the light behind me, you guys. And so, to go back, I was so shocked. The whole show, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe, because Golden Blood was like one of my guilty pleasures shows back in the day. It's not a very good show, but it's not that bad. And now it's been like completely wiped by My Golden Blood, because obviously if you type My Golden Blood BL, like, Golden Blood is forgotten completely. But to see them again, I was like, a wave of nostalgia hits me. I can't. This is how I know, like, I'm basically a boomer, like, in the Thai drama fandom, because I'm like, 2021, that was so long ago. So anyways, we have Dr. O, played by Sugus Buntawit. Dr. O is the kind of, he's not an assistant, he's also a doctor, but obviously Dr. Nin is the head chef. So he's often like assisting Dr. Nin, especially in the case of Alan, he's kind of his assistant there. He's kind of a strict person. And he hires a new nurse, Pete, who is played by Tenon Teshapat, who is a little bit different. So if Mo Nin and Mo O are more like follow the rules, like very unemotional, and they're kind of seen as the villains, especially at the beginning of the show, Pete is more of like a disruptor. So he doesn't really respect all the rules all the time, and he gets reprimanded and creates some tensions between him and Mo and Dr. O. And, spoiler, they actually like each other and end up together. Even though the chemistry was a little bit weird, but we'll talk about that. Then there's another patient called C, played by another girl I know, Radclaw Amratisha, who has acted in many, many shows, was even at the Payback concert that I saw live. Anyways, I really like this actress. And she's a very mysterious figure. She appears only in 1 or 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure. And she's very weird. I don't know. She served a very big part because she is the one who, before she finally gets released from the mental hospital, tells Alan to look under the table, a table in the hospital, and he finds his old journal, realizing that he's been at the hospital for a very long time, this isn't his first time at the hospital, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but I was a little bit confused about her character, who she is exactly. We'll talk about it. She's kind of the last mystery that the show doesn't solve, but we'll talk about it. And then obviously Alan, who plays the old man version of Alan, is called Top Sahachai. And we also have Tukta, played by a girl who's called Tukta Kamonrat, who is the best friend of O, and kind of encourages him to date Pete. So, as you can see, quite a restrained cast. Okay, well, it's not that restrained, but like it's not that. It's an average cast, let's say that. Now onto the cast and acting. So the cast is, for me, very, very solid. It's mostly established actors or actors that I knew before. The only one that I really didn't know at all, I had never seen, apart from like the old man actor and Tukta's actress, is Panther Jirapat, who plays Win. But then I learned that he was in Last One, the band with Da'u and Offroad, and I was like, oh, I literally saw them on stage at the Gotcha Pop 1 concert. So I've seen, and I was like, this guy looks a little bit familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So now I know. And I thought the acting was really solid. Tu Setawut, like, I know he hasn't been acting much after Hormone, so like for a decade. And for him to come back like to a main role like this, I thought he was really, really great. As Alan, really great performance. I thought that Pentor / Win, the one who plays Win, didn't have as much acting material to be able like to showcase his acting. He did good, but like he didn't really stand out to me. I think Sagdatorn was really good. Kik Danai again I thought was really good. That was such a different role for him, and I thought he was great. Rodklau Amarchisha, who played C, who told about the notebook, the hidden notebook, was also good. The old man actor Top Sahachai was really good as well. And then we go into O and Pete. So for Pete, I like his acting, and I remember that even in Golden Blood, he was the better actor. Like, I remember that his character had more like heart eyes and was better at like playing a love story. I think actually Pete's actor is pretty fucking solid, and I wish I would see more of him, because I think he's like really, really good in queer roles. I do remember that like for Golden Blood, he was also very good in that. And then we have Sugus Bontawit, who plays O. Here, I don't know if it's the direction, if it's the actor, if it's probably a bit of both. I thought he looked a little bit like stiff, a little bit awkward, especially in the love scenes. I know his character is supposed to be a little bit more of like a tsundere, but I'm not sure it translated that much, because sometimes you don't really feel that he likes Pete at all. Which is a little bit weird. But I still did like this side chip, quite a bit. I just wish that from like the acting on Sugus Bontawit's part was a little bit more, chemistry full, let's say that. Next, we have the writing. So this show is a mess, but on purpose. There's so many informations, and you don't know the timeline. So you don't know what happened before, what happened after. It's really, really hard. Even at the end of the show, I would have to rewatch the entire show, or maybe like cut the entire show so the scenes can be like all in order, because that's how much the show is fucking confusing, you guys. And it works very well, obviously, for this show. This show is like psychological thriller, psychological horror, and you are meant to be confused. And I thought the show was good enough to like make you care enough for the character of Alan to keep watching, even when you don't really know what the hell is going on, you know? And I also liked that the writing kind of makes every character in this show very morally gray. Like, I feel like you never know who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. Even at times you're like, is Alan completely like out of it? Like, what's going on? And so it's interesting because I obviously like, I'm a character focused girly. I say this in every episode. And also I really like a morally gray character or like a complex character, because I think then there's so much more to chew. Like if a character is always perfect in every circumstances, like why are we even watching? And here I thought the writing was very good and making the characters all like very morally gray. And actually like, although in some ways it's also kind of impedes on the love stories, because for example, for Dr. O and Pete, I was like, Pete, I'm pretty sure Pete is a good guy. He seems like a good guy. He's kind of the only one except Alan that I actually trusted in the show. But, Dr. O, I was like, how could I root for a love story between O and Pete when I'm pretty sure Dr. O is like a bad person? So that was something. I think what's strongest in the writing is that like even when the show is again all over the place and you don't really know the timeline of it and you don't really understand anything until the very last episode, I really enjoyed that you can tell like they really put a lot of care into the writing, because again, apart from one thing that I will talk about in a second, everything is solved by the end of the show and then everything makes a lot more sense. But yeah, the only things that aren't solved, so is the character of PC. So PC for me was the biggest mystery. So she appears quite late into the show, kind of randomly, and she starts talking to Alan, but she seems to also see Win, or at least she's aware that Alan thinks Win is here. Again, Win is a ghost. Win does not exist anymore. He's dead. And so at some point, when she comes back the second time she sees Alan, she tells him, how is Win? Where is Win? And I wondered if she's asking that because she could genuinely see Win, and if she can genuinely see Win, she's probably a ghost. Or if she knew that Alan, because she's been at the hospital for a very long time. So, and we know at the end that Alan has had 4 episodes of thinking he's a young man who sees an old man in the mirror and who forgets everything. And so probably she's seen him maybe the 4 times and she knew that Win like was not here, but she just asked, oh, where is Win? And that would make sense as well, because then obviously if she cannot see Win, she can't know if Alan thinks he's here or not here. You know what I mean? So that's the first question. And then the second question, how did she know about the notebook, under the table? Why, did she get bailed out of the hospital? Because she said that no one cared about her. She had no family left. The only person was her husband who died. So I'm like, who came to bail her? I feel like there were some scenes missing around her character to make it more sense. Because to be honest, the rest of the show, I feel like they answered my questions and my doubts, about the plot, like, quite well in the last episode. But this is the only thing where I feel like, who is this woman? Is she real? Is she dead? Why did she get bailed out of the hospital when she said she had no family? How did she know about the notebook and put it under the table? Why did she ask about Win? All of these questions, I feel like they could have been answered with 1 or 2 more scenes just explaining it. And also, again, for the writing, I just wish that after, I understand that the show ends with Alan, the old man, dying, and kind of meeting Win again and then being kind of happily ever after, in the afterlife, which I thought was very poetic, and in some sense it's a good ending. And it's really, I find it interesting that the best ending possible for this show was them dying. And I think it's interesting. If you don't know, my grandma used to have Alzheimer and she died from it. And it was quite sudden and it was a very big deal. It's been 10 years, like over 10 years now, but, I do like feel very much attached to plots that have a character with Alzheimer. Because I experienced it, not firsthand, but like offhand, by being near my grandma for over a decade. And I felt quite touched that like at the end of this show, the best ending possible is him dying and finding back his love in the afterlife. I found it very touching. I cried. And I think that in a way, it was a similar feeling where my grandma died, which was like that now at least she's not suffering, because by the end she could barely feed herself. She had very much no energy, like her brain kind of had been eaten off by the disease. And yeah, I'm very, very sensitive to Alzheimer's storyline. To be honest, I did not see that one coming at all for this show. Maybe it was obvious to other people. I don't watch that much like psychological horror or like things like this with this type of plot twist. So for me, it really surprised me. I just knew that Win was dead. Like I could feel it. I was like, we've never seen him interact with anyone else. I'm pretty sure he's dead. He's a ghost. But, yeah, it was very touching. It reminded me also of 10 Years Ticket, like a few years back, where my favorite actor of all time, Oh Jung-poon, that I have to mention every episode, of course, had a storyline where his grandma also had Alzheimer, and there was a very touching scene of his grandma remembering him, and I just like, it felt very special back then to have like my favorite actor have a scene with a topic that like that was very close to my heart. So yeah, I think the writing on that front was really good. I just wish that they would have solved these few mysteries. And I wish that after the death of Alan and then his happily ever after with Win, would have gotten to see Dr. Nin and Alex like end up together. I thought honestly at the end they were honestly the couple that I was the most rooting for, and that felt the most heartfelt to me, because obviously like Alan and Win are soulmates and together, but we don't really see them that much. We never saw the old Alex, like when he was young back in the day with Win. We only saw this like disrupted reality that wasn't like fully true because Win is a ghost once again. And then we also have Dr. O and Pete, which were cute, but again, I felt like Dr. O was kind of holding back a little bit too much and it wasn't that convincing. But Monin and Alex, like I feel like they were very, very heartfelt. Honestly, I really liked them. But yeah, I think the writing overall was very, very solid. I don't really have much negativity to say about this show. I think that, this show, like, at the beginning is very, very confusing, but just manages still to hold you like over, so you keep watching. And I'm saying that as someone who's again not a fan of this genre that much. Like I'm not, how to say, it's not that I'm not a fan, because when I say I'm not a fan, it's like I don't like this genre, which is not true. I actually really enjoy it. Like I know that like Shutter Island was a movie that I watched it so long ago, like probably 10 years ago, but I really loved it. I do like these kinds of shows, but they're not my favorites for the simple reason that in these shows, it's never really about the characters. It's much more about the plot. It's what has happened to the characters instead of like what is in the inner world, the inner thoughts, the inner decisions that the characters take. And once again, I am much more of like a character focused girly. So I like this inner part of the characters a lot more than the outer. There's like your thinking and your changing and your growth and your evolution. And then you have the actions. And that's why, in my opinion, like the most successful actions or like psychological horror, shows or movies, also they get to develop the characters. And here I think it did, but obviously it's only an 8-episode series. I think it did really good, by the way, but it's just that like, obviously I was not gonna be that attached to this show because it's not really surrounding. It doesn't have a lot of heartfelt qualities that usually is what does it for me. I like the heartfelt, I like the angst and drama, but that ends in like a big hug. I like the hurt/comfort, if you will. And here I think it was mostly like confusion and then hurt and then a little bit of comfort, I guess, but not that much. So that's why, I would consider this not really my usual genre of shows that I would like, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was very, very solid. And I was honestly very, very impressed because I thought that the ending actually managed to surprise me. And I think that's the thing. Like, if you had seen it coming that Alan was the old guy all along, then probably your rating and your opinion of the show will be much lower, because obviously when a show hinges so much on a plot twist, if the plot twist is successful for a viewer, then it's great, but if it's not, then kind of everything is like a house of cards and it just falls down. Next, for the cinematography, and this is what really held me over, to be honest, especially in the first episodes where I was confused, like I was like, what the hell is going on? The cinematography is so good. It's so good. It's really, really solid. I always say, like, yes, the shots are pretty or whatever, but there's no, like, I look for innovative camera shots. This show had a few. It had a few camera shots. I remember in the first episode when Alan, like, wakes up out of bed, the camera just follows him. And I thought that was fun. Like, it's very dynamic filming. I love the use of lighting, especially when Alan, like, discovers that his dad is dead. The whole lighting in that room is like half blue, half red. It's very drastic. So there is like a very, dreamy quality to this show, because again, it talks about someone who has memory issues, who is being treated in a mental hospital. All of these things, it has a very dreamy quality to its cinematography, where you feel like it really enhances, in my opinion, like the confusion that you feel as a viewer. And I thought this was very, very well filmed. I genuinely, I was so happy because I watched this show at the same time that I'm watching Burnout Syndrome and Claire Bell, and I'm like, this is 3 good ass shows with, now people are gonna say I'm in the Illuminati probably, but these are 3 good ass shows that, oh my god, all have like really strong cinematography. Yet, if you see all 3 shows, the cinematography styles are very, very different. And I think that's what's so amazing, is like when a show can really have its own like identity through its cinematography, and I think this show really excelled at this. And honestly, the cinematography really kept me going, especially in the first 2 episodes where I was very much confused. And yeah, I think the cinematography was honestly great, definitely much higher than other Thai dramas, and really, really worked well for me. Next, we have the pace. So this show is very rushed. It's very rushed, but on purpose. And I think here the rushed pace kind of works, because again, like, we go in and out of scenes. We don't know the order of it, the timeline of it. We are as confused as Alan, as the main character, is. And I think the pace, that makes it so the pace is very, very, quick. And very, very punchy, like, let's go, you know, because again, there's only 8 episodes, and so there's only so much that you can tell the story, and I thought the story was told in like a very concise way, but because of it, it also kind of increased the pace, which I think is very beneficial for these kinds of shows. When it's a show with high tension and also lots of confusion for both the characters and the viewer, I think the pace needs to be a little bit quicker than usual. The only things in the pace that's kind of honestly threw me off, now that I think about it, is there's about 3 or 4 scenes. So you're gonna tell me, oh, it's only 3 or 4 scenes, but they're pretty long, of the doctors explaining things to Alan, but with metaphors. Most of them are with Dr. Nin talking to Alan, but there's also one of Dr. O talking to Alan, and every time I felt like it was a little bit long. It was a little bit drawn out, and it kind of cut the rest of the pace, the normal pace of the show, which was a lot more punchy, and I wish they would have made these scenes a little bit more concise. But apart from that, I would say the pace was really, really good. Now for the ships and chemistry, although I already kind of talked about that. Honestly, I liked all 3 ships of the show. Did I love any of these 3 ships? No. And to be honest, that's the thing. In my opinion, when you make a BL or GL or whatever, like a romance show that also has like a much more interesting plot that will draw out a lot more attention to it, then obviously the romance plot will fall back. So obviously I always talk about plot A, plot B, plot C, and it can continue, like, depends on the type of show. Some shows sometimes only have plot A and they're boring as fuck. Usually they at least have plot A and plot B. Here I would say plot A is everything surrounding Alan, like where he is, what he's going on, the mental hospital, what's the truth, who's lying to him. And then you have plot B, which is his relationship with Win. And then maybe plot C is gonna be the relationship between O and Pete. And then plot D is gonna be the relationship between Nin and Alex. Okay, so there's 4 plots, let's say that. And plot A takes, let's say, at least 70%, if not, I think it's more, honestly, 70 to 80% of the plot time, which means that plots B, C, and D have to share the last 20 or 30% left of the plot time, which obviously makes you care less. Usually in other romance shows that have a less complex plot, it will be like plot A will be the romance. It will be at least 50 to 60% or 70% sometimes even. And then plot B will be something else. And the perfect show, in my opinion, will have plot A, 50% romance, plot B, 50% also. 50% another type of drama. And so here, obviously, I think because plot A takes so much of the screen time, as it should, because if it didn't take as much, we wouldn't be that invested, and also we would be so much more lost by the end of the show. So we needed that screen time. It means that obviously the romantic relationships in the show are not going to be that enticing. So for Alan and Win, I thought they were very cute, but the thing is they only have an episode and a half where they have sort of cute kind of rom-com vibes at time. And even that, this episode and a half is not just spent on them. Obviously, there's other characters to take care of, and the plot has to go forward. That's why, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to be oh, this couple was incredible, life-changing, because we see actually very little of them. And did I feel bad about seeing that little of them? No, because again, the main plot of the show is plot A, which surrounds Alan and he's searching for the truth, which does involve Win, but not that much. And so that's why the ships, the chemistry was good, but was it that enticing? No. Then for Dr. O and Pete, as I said again, I thought they were very cute. Again, they brought me so much nostalgia, so I have a little bit of an attachment to them. It was again, it's so random. It's you see a ship 4 or 5 years ago, and then you never hear about them again. You never see these actors even in other roles, separate or whatever. And then you see them again 4 years later, and you're oh, it's just so random. And so in this case, I was happy to see them, and I liked them. And I thought, again, Pete was really, really good. The chemistry from his side was good, but I don't know what was going on with O. I felt he was a little bit too withdrawn from Pete, and that would be my issue with this ship, but I still like them just fine. And honestly, out of the 3 ships of the show, they're definitely the most developed, even though they're not even developed that much. And then we have Dr. Nin and Alex. As I said, I thought they came out of nowhere, but the first scene they had together, I was these two are in love. They're gay and in love. And I was yes, everyone here is gay. Really, really loved the way, I just love a good forbidden love. I think you guys know that if you've seen my Love in the Moonlight episode. I love a good forbidden love. And here, even though, to go back to the writing also, I don't really get why Nin is so opposed to dating Alex. I get that he wants to focus on work, but I'm dude, what? But I'm pretty sure that once Alan dies, there's no obstacles between them dating. Why won't they date? Hello, you guys are in your 40s, let's go. And also I'm gonna be honest, I love a more adult guys in their 40s gay pairing. I love that shit. So honestly, I really like them. They were low-key at the end of the show my favorite ship out of the 3. But yeah, the ships and chemistry, in my opinion, this show is not a show that you would watch for the ships, for the chemistry. And I think that's also why its grade is pretty low on my drama list, and why not that many people watch this show, because it's not, in my opinion, it's barely even a regular BL show. It's stands on its own. And I loved it, but oh yeah, spoiler alert, I did love this show. I didn't even say that I liked it. But again, I think that the general public that cares a lot more about ships and the chemistry and the kiss scenes and sex scenes obviously will be disappointed in this, because there are very few kiss scenes. There's one sex scene and it's not very explicit. And I want to talk about that now that I'm thinking about it. I did kind of love, I know that it's like, because Win is a ghost, so obviously okay, I'm gonna talk about the sex scene. I don't know how to explain what I'm saying. I was very surprised that they made like Alan the bottom in his relationship, like when they had sex with Win. But honestly, when I watched that sex scene, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure like Win is, I already thought that Win was a ghost, but then I was like, I'm pretty sure this confirms that he's a ghost, because I don't want to say, but like, usually, like, in BL, gender roles are a big part of, like, who's gonna be the top and the bottom, right? And so, obviously, like, Alan being taller should have, I don't agree with that, by the way. I'm very against, like, these kind of dumb rules, by the way, if I haven't made myself clear. But usually, according to like the usual BL rules, Alan should be the top, and he ended up being the bottom. And I was like, oh, okay, But then I was like, oh, maybe it's also because as a ghost, like if Alan is fucking the air, that would be weird. But if Alan is getting fucked by the air, then at least it makes a little bit more sense. So I was like, oh, okay. So, but at least I like that. I like fluidity. Again, it's the bisexual in me. I don't like to choose. So I did like that, like, they made Alan the bottom, and it was a little bit unexpected, even though I think it was probably more for plot reasons, and the ghost thing was a big part of it. But yeah. Anyways, let's go on to the music. I didn't quite notice the music, but I know that when I did, it really enhanced the mood of the show. And again, I think this show, like, as I said, the cinematography is good, the writing is good. If I wasn't clear before, I think it's a very well executed and like tightly, ran show. And I think the music here, like, really improved the, scenes, obviously, of tension and sadness and all the different emotions we feel throughout the show. I think was very interesting to see these scenes enhanced by the music, which is kind of the goal when you use music in a show. Next, we have the costume design. So they are in a hospital for most of the show. Oh, another thing that I wish we would have gotten answers is why like half of the hospital population wears like a light blue shirt, which is what Alan wears, and why does the second half of the population wears mint, like light mint uniform. I just wondered why, like, is there a reason for it, or was it just like aesthetic purposes? I don't know. I wish it would have been cleared up. But apart from that, the costume design was very basic. They're mostly doctors and inmates. No, not inmates. This is not Claire Bell. Inpatients. So costume design, very basic. Let's be real. Now onto the rewatchability. Is this show rewatchable? I think this show is rewatchable, but only once. Because I honestly, after watching it, I want to rewatch it to like see the details that I missed the first time around, and also try to piece the timeline in its original order, because again, the timeline that we see in the show is all over the place, which makes it super interesting, but also a little bit like confusing. And at the end of the show, you don't get to see the actual timeline that these things got to appear in. And so I would rewatch it, but to be honest, I don't think this is a show that you rewatch like every year or every month. It's a show that is very much about its plot twists. But honestly, I would rewatch it, and I think I probably will eventually in my life, because it's a really good show. And also, I know one of my friends who would love this show, so I will send this show to her, or maybe I'll ask her to watch it with me when we both come back to Thailand next year. Now for my enjoyment out of 5, I would say I'm very generous with this. I never give it more. I either give it a 4 or 5. But this time I'm gonna give it a 4. The only reason is, for me, at the beginning of the show, I was very confused and a little bit stressed by it. So I will just deduct a star. Because the thing is, like, I always want to give 5 stars, like, every time. And obviously, I need to rate it a little bit more, objectively, let's say. Next, for my rating. So I rated this show an 8.5. This is a very high grade, because honestly, I think this show has a lot of aspects that I really cherish in Thai dramas, but that are a bit hard to find most of the time. So first, I think a strong, innovative vision and story to tell, very good cinematography, daring stories that are, if not never seen before, have been like at least are quite rare to see. And I think that's something that I really crave. I always say, like, I want some spice, I want some novelty. All of these things are genuinely how I feel. And when I find a Thai drama that, like, I can't really quite categorize it into, I mean, I can say it's a BL, or I can say it's a psychological horror, but I think for me, like, this show was so much more, and I think it was so well made. And so I have to give it an 8.5, even though, like, usually for shows that I don't, I don't feel a lot of emotions towards, or I don't feel very, like, relatable, I don't feel a lot of relatability with the shows, I will usually only give it an 8. But here I gave it an 8.5 because of the Alzheimer's storyline, and because the ending for me was very touching. And also I love shows that talk about death. I know that sounds creepy, but I think death is I think it's like the topic that human beings are the most, like, fascinated and afraid of at the same time. And I think this show was really, really solid. It was definitely an amazing show that deserved a lot more audience and a better rating, because on my drama list it's a 7.4. So once again, I completely disagree with the rating, but no, this show is really, really good, and I really recommend it. And lastly, who would like this show? I think honestly, any kind of, like, psychological horror or, like, thriller fans, even horror fans, there are some scenes that are a little bit horror adjacent, if you will. I think you would really like this show. And if you are both, like, a horror fan and you like gay shit, I think this would be really, really good for you. Again, I'm not really, I like thrillers, but I mostly like more the mystery side. But, like, sometimes I think horror stuff or, like, thriller stuff goes a little bit too much into the plot twist and the, like, oh wow, like, shock value. And for me, that's not really what draws me into work, or at least what makes me really resonate with it and consider it like a show that I like or that I love. But here, this show, I think, really towed the line very well. I thought the acting was really good. And I thought the execution, again, really, really impressed me. For a show that, again, I didn't quite know, like, until it was released. I think it's a show that deserved, honestly, more audience and a better writing on my drama list, because it's very rare to see a Thai BL nowadays that, like, really stands out and really doesn't really feel quite like any other. And I think this one really succeeded in making me feel this way. So yeah, that was it for today's episode. I will see you next week. Bye bye.